Void Terrarium is a mystery-style game from NIS America and tells the quite frankly adorable story of how a scavenger robot stumbles upon the last, barely surviving human in an underground scrapyard, and along with his AI friend, who accidentally caused the end of the world, decides it's his duty to keep her alive. Our little scavenger friend is found by a mouse who boots him up, however this ultimately results in his own demise. Aided by his now immobile AI friend, the imaginatively named Robbie the robot traverses dangerous wasteland to source materials that his beloved human requires, and to improve the girl's living conditions. The dialogue between the AI and Robbie is nothing short of charming. They discuss her needs and try and find a suitable name for her, with the AI claiming that human names are just too difficult, but ultimately agreeing on Toriko, or Toriko, sorry the game is only in text form. The game deviates from others in its genre by refusing to focus on the helpless little girl, however. Instead, we're treated to an endearing relationship between Robbie and the very guilt-ridden AI. It did just cause the end of humanity after all. Toriko functions somewhat as a narrator rather than a character. Robbie and the AI are searching the wasteland because of her, but she isn't present for a huge proportion of the game and barely any of the gameplay itself. Speaking of gameplay, if you ventured into any Mystery Dungeon style game, you probably already know the basic mechanics. Turn-based combat is a bit clunky and very frustrating at times. Really, you're just gonna stand there while I play my next move with 1 health point and send me back to the scrapyard anyway? Really, bro? But the most niggling thing I've found with Void Terrarium is the fact that no matter how far you progress through the game, you begin each area at level 1. The levels themselves get longer as the game progresses, whilst not being too unbearably taxing, aside from a literally unending level, and as Robbie levels up throughout the areas, the level up perks are randomised each time. This means that even if you get stuck in areas, as I did, a lot, it's not difficult to approach it again and again, relying on the randomised perks to help you out. Dying, as it turns out, isn't all that bad. In Void Terrarium, you need to die in order to convert materials found in the wasteland into resources to craft the items that Toriko needs. Another frankly adorable add-on to the game is the fact that beyond a certain point, you craft a handy little resource called the Pet Nanny, almost like a Tamagotchi, which the AI pretty hilariously informs us humans created to distract their children, true, which enables you to keep an eye on Toriko as you traverse the wastelands, enabling you to drop food for her, play with her, and just generally keep her happy. You know, like a Tamagotchi. One of the driving forces behind the game, especially when the turn-based combat began to irk me a little, was the ability to decorate Toriko's terrarium. Say that 10 times. This may sound superficial, but actually each item of furniture crafted will buff Robbie's abilities, thus making him more of a threat against the encountered monsters. More importantly though, the personalization is just fun, which was definitely what NIS was striving for when they created Void Terrarium. If you like a good, engaging story that doesn't take itself too seriously, then this is a quality title I can recommend. The further you get into the game, the more the game throws at you in terms of new enemies, weapons, mechanics, and so even when you're losing, you feel like you're learning. I was always excited to see what would come next, and my only qualm with the game would be the price point. For a game that barely scrapes the 20-hour mark with basic gameplay, it could be argued that $60 is very steep. Personally, I do find games like this to become repetitive, and on the basis of trailers, I'd probably not have spent that amount on Void Terrarium. However, after completing it, despite actually swearing off it around the 3-hour mark, I would say it's worth the price point for casual fans of the genre who don't take gaming too seriously. Thanks to a beautiful world and narrative that made me feel attached to Toriko, it's a game that will definitely stick with me for a while.